start us off well. So, ladies and gentlemen, Coach Ray Lockhart.
Thank you. Thanks. So just real briefly, I coached for about 40 years, known Coach Del Mundo for about half of that time. I do have 4 older kids, 4 kids. 3 of them have already graduated college. They all competed in college in something. My oldest son played basketball and baseball in college. My oldest daughter played basketball. My youngest daughter ran track and field and cross country. More proud of their careers and all of those things. And I do have a son that's going through the recruiting process now, so he'll get a chance to do that too. So did that all while I was coaching, and towards the end of my coaching gig, I got hooked up with an organization called Positive Coaching Alliance, so I travel around the country and talk to people just like this, and so it's convenient. Branched away from that a little bit, and I'm immersed in a little bit deeper consulting as the director of Gold Standard Coaching, and that's why I'm here tonight. It's going to be fun because we're going to mix a little bit of player stuff, a little bit of parent stuff. We're going to combine it a little bit for about the next half hour and see where we can go with that. But yeah, so as I travel around, as I coach, I'm always thinking, this is me, right? I'm either coaching or I'm in a meeting or I'm speaking, and all that time I'm wondering, is this the me that I want you to see, right? And we go through that all the time, right, as employees and as students, right? Ladies, this is you, right? You do things all day long. You're in class, you're playing games, you're walking the hallway, you're around the city in Burbank gear, and every time you're out, you got to be thinking, is this the me that I want them to see, right? Because you're representing not only yourself and your family, but your school at the same time, right? And sometimes you're just not feeling it, right? I get it. Sometimes it's late at night. Sometimes you had a game late at night and you're in class the next morning and you're bored and you're tired and you want to put your hoodie over your head and slump down the hallway and sit back in your desk. And what you really need to do is you got to figure out a way to make it through, right? Because that body language isn't going to get it done, right? So you got to act as if you're not bored, or act as if you're not tired, or act as if, I'm ready to go into the game. And, before you know it, you're going to feel that way, right? When you are down a little bit, try smiling at 3 or 4 people and you'll find out how fast you can turn that, that thing around a little bit. So, some people say fake it till you make it, right? I like to say act as if, right? If I'm tired, act as if I'm not. If I'm bored, act as if I'm not. And before you know it, you'll change that body language from, that person slumping over their desk or sitting back on the bench to somebody that's ready to go in. Because your body language screams at everybody about who you are, right? And you have that image. And you want to make sure that you're projecting the image that you want. Because what you're doing right now in high school, it sounds kind of weird, right? But you're building your brand, right? Who you are. And everything that you do goes into building your brand, right? Everything that you do in social media, whether it's Twitter or Snapchat or Facebook or the music you listen to, the emails that you send, all of those things are telling everybody who you are. And the best brand, ladies, is a student athlete, like a real student athlete, okay? When it's all said and done and you're sending out your applications to college or when you're applying for a job or even when you're making friends and meeting people, they want to associate with real student athletes, right? Why do you think that is? Okay, there's all sorts of reasons, and we're going to talk about some of those tonight, but it's because of the benefits that you get out of athletics. They know that if you're a student athlete that can balance academics and athletics, that you're committed, that you work hard, that you're a good team member, right? You're confident, right? Those are the kind of people that businesses want, colleges want, people just want to be around, right? There was a study not too long ago on female Fortune 500 executives. 65% of them played sports as kids and attribute the things that they learned in sports to how they're able to run their businesses, right? It's a laboratory for life that you're going through, right? And we'll talk about some of those examples. But what you're getting out of this is far more than, learning how to run an offense and dribble and pass and shoot, right? We're getting some life lessons. And that's really what we want to spend some time on so that you can help decide what you want to do. And that's a long way away, maybe. But I came across this and I just had to throw it in, right? When you can find the intersection of something that you love, something that you're good at, something that everybody needs, and then something that people will pay you for, right? That's when you know you've kind of found that wheelhouse, that purpose, right? And I share this with, at least 3 or 4 people a week, and it's cool that I get to share it with 50 people today because when you get to that spot, right? I said I coached for a long time, had some success, won some games, had some players become great people. But being able to help a lot of people in this forum is really what's fulfilling. So, keep searching for those things, right? And there's no hurry. Everybody says, hurry up, life is short. No, life is long, right? Take your time and do it right, okay? And, this is part of it, right? How you handle yourself on social media. I talk about this rule of 4. Everything that you put on social media, it's for everybody, right? You might think it disappears. You might think if I delete it fast. No, right? Screenshots last forever. Social media, anything you put online is for everybody, right? And it's forever. And if somebody finds it, they're really slow to forgive and forget, right? So, be careful. I hear people say pause before you post. I like that. Herm Edwards, football coach at Arizona State, who was on ESPN for a long time, he just says, don't hit send. Right? Don't hit send. Adults, we can probably get, like you're mad at your boss, or you want to fire off an email, right? Send out, type a really detailed email about everything that's wrong and everything that you do, everything that you would do better, right? Get it off your chest and then hit delete, right? And then move on from there and figure it out. So ladies, be careful with social media. And here's the thing, a lot of times it's all in jest, right? It's fun. You're playing your rival, and maybe you know some people at your rivals, so you post something, kind of trash talking, having a little bit of fun. But everybody else doesn't know that, right? Everybody doesn't know the relationship that you might have with somebody that you're, tweeting with, and all of a sudden you're representing Burbank in a way, that might not represent what you want, if you're tweeting with a friend from Burroughs or something like that. So be careful with that, and think more about what you want to do to help your team. Okay, and we want to talk about team for a minute. What I want you to do is I want you to look at all these pictures, and parents, you can play along, but it'll be fun to see how the ladies react. I want you to think, ladies, for about 30 seconds. I want you to look at each one of those pictures, and I want you to think about what's happening in each picture, right? What you think the game situation is in each of those pictures. And then I want you to consider which picture best represents the kind of teammate that you want to have on your team. Okay? Take about 30 seconds and look at each of those pictures. What's going on? All right? We're going to refer to them as picture 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now consider each one of them and figure out which picture represents the kind of teammate that you want to have. Right? What kind of teammate you want all the other girls to be. Then I'm going to have you vote. Because sometimes it's interesting and we don't know what our own kids are going to vote. So you're welcome to turn around and take a look. But what I want is when I say 3, right? I'm going to say 1, 2, 3. And what I want you to do is I want you to put your hands up, and I want you to put 1, 2, 3, or 4, right? Based on which one. When I get to 3, right? That was a false start, or you threw it in too soon. You ready? When I get to 3, I want everybody to go up at once. Right? 1, 2, discipline. 1, 2, 3. Nice and high. A lot of 4s. Some 2s. Okay, hands down. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, we'll start with the 4s. There were a lot of 4s. Somebody tell me what made you choose, or tell me what's going on in number 4. Raise your hand. One person speaks at a time. What's going on in number 4? What do we think? Yeah.
It was like consoling a teammate.
Okay, so he's consoling his teammate. Yep.
He's having his teammates back.
Well, he's got his teammates back a little bit. What might have happened?
They lost.
Maybe they lost.
He missed a shot.
Missed a shot, had a big turnover. Okay, one at a time again. Why do you want a teammate like that? Somebody else raised their hand over here. I caught you. No? Okay, back over there. Yeah.
Personally, I think I would want a teammate like that, and I do have teammates like that.
That's nice.
They have my back, and we're like not there to like, criticize me.
Okay.
If I were the player that messed up, like I wouldn't want someone to criticize me.
Okay. Good. Yeah.
Well, they're there to give you like constructive criticism to make you better. They're not there to keep you down.
Constructive criticism. I like that. Whoops. Let's go with number 3. Who picked number 3? What's going on in number 3? They're cheering, they're having fun, right? We like to have fun, that's fair. Okay? Maybe they won, right? That's what it looks like. We like to win. Winning is more fun than losing, I'm not going to lie. Okay? How about number 2? Who picked number 2? I saw some hands with number 2 over here. How about you?
I picked number 2.
Why did you pick number 2?
Because, like, in the picture, he's helping another person out.
Okay.
It's like he's a winner of some sort. He's a good sport.
So he's a good sport. He's helping up an opponent. Why do you want your teammates to be like that?
Because it displays good sportsmanship.
Okay. So you're representing yourself, and your team. That's good. Anybody else have anything on number 2? I had somebody once say, if he's going to treat an opponent like that, imagine what a great teammate he'll be to me. Right? And how about number 1? Who picked number 1? Raise your hand up. Nobody picked number 1. Okay, what's happening in number 1?
Being aggressive.
Aggressive, going for the ball. Like if you looked up competition in a dictionary, that would be the picture, right? It's the physical act of it, right? So we want people to play hard. I mean, the reality is we got to have all of those things, right? Think about your favorite teammate that you've ever had, right? Really quick, rapid fire, I want you to throw out some qualities that person had, right? Maybe it's teammate here, right? But favorite teammates, best teammates ever, what are some qualities that they have? Yeah. Hard work, what else?
Caring.
They cared.
They care outside of the sport.
Oh, outside the sport, not just his teammates. Good. More? More? That's all it takes to be a good teammate? Nope, you moved your hand. It's like an auction. It's sold. Yes?
You're the hustler.
Hustles?
You have your back.
They have your back? A lot of those things lead into somebody saying that person has heart, right? You've heard that phrase, heart. But it's not really the heart, is it? Right? It's not really about, that organ pumping. What is it? Yeah, most of those things are passion. It's mental, right? So it's not really the heart of the champion. It's the mind of the champion. And the mind of the champion helps you develop all sorts of things. A big thing that's talked about now is toughness, right? And toughness is misunderstood, right? Toughness isn't being over-aggressive on the court and that fake tough guy thing. Toughness is really a mental thing. It's being able to focus on the one thing that's most important right now. We'll talk about competitive toughness in a minute, right? If all I know is that I need to go set that screen, I'm not going to let anything stop me from doing that, right? That's toughness. If I know that I need to be in a certain spot on defense or block out, that's toughness. It doesn't have anything to do with physicalness, right? It's competitive toughness. And if something doesn't go right in a play where you're focusing on that thing, right, you still need to bounce back and compete on the next play, right? And that's the resilience that you build up, right? It didn't go well now, but I still got to go get it done at the other end of the floor, okay? So you need to develop that resilience. You do that through sport. And maybe today didn't go well, right? Maybe the result wasn't what we wanted today. But you got to work hard at practice the next day and continue to work towards that season-long goal so that you have grit. Grit is the most important thing, right? There's a great book titled Grit by Angela Duckworth. It's awesome. But anybody that's successful in anything has got grit, right? Because you're going to have setbacks. You got to keep going, all right? So we want to develop those things. That's the TRG that I set up, right? Toughness, resilience, and grit, okay? It's hard. What's that quote? If it was easy, anybody could do it. The hard is what makes it great. What's that from? Does anybody recognize that? Parents might recognize that. The manager from League of Their Own. Nice. Good job. Okay? All right. We got a little game I want you to play. I'm going to give you 100 imaginary gold standard dollars right now. Okay? And parents, what I want you to do, and you're going to have to do some math. I know that wasn't, on your list of things to do tonight. Right? But I want you to figure out which of the following things on this list are most important to you, right? And spend more money on the things that are important than some of the other things. Maybe you're going to spend all your money on one thing. What you want your kids to get out of sports, okay? What your goals are. And players are doing just the opposite. What you want to get out of sports, right? There's all sorts of different reasons to play sports, okay? I want you to spend some time and look at this list. Again, only spend about a minute. And figure out which things are most important to you. If you can do the math in your head, do that. A lot of times we have paper and pencil, but I'm not going to check your work. Okay? Win championships, physical fitness, have fun, learn the game. Take a look at all of those. I know you're probably taking a screenshot, snapshot of it so you can save it for later. You got it zoomed? Nice. That's ingenuity. I'm about that. That was okay. Okay. Is there anybody that would spend all $100 on any one thing? A lot of times there's one of those in the room. What? Life lessons. So you're gonna get a bunch of different life lessons out of playing sports. We'll talk about a few of those. Anybody else spend a lot of money on any one thing? 90, 80? Yep. Be a star. Okay. A lot of things are going to go into that. Right? Yeah. Earning a scholarship. That's reasonable for some people. Right? Again, some things that need to happen before that occurs. Yes? Are you going to have to do that in life a little bit? Lots, right? Handling setbacks and failures and defeats. Sure are. All right? There's some more? Well, let's hear from a couple of parents. What do you want to get your kids to get out of sports?
You don't have it up there, but competition.
Competition. You need to, well, yeah, we're going to talk about that a lot. Yeah, you want them to learn how to, is the world competitive?
Yes.
Right? And that goes back to that Fortune 500 study with the female Fortune 500 executives, right? You got to learn to compete in the world a little bit, right? And, a lot of things go into that, bouncing back from failures. Anything else? All of those are reasonable, and I'm not here to tell you what your goals are, but what I am going to tell you is that whatever your goals are, those should be the things that are guiding your conversations with your kids, right? Not about how the game went, how many points somebody scored, how Coach Del Mundo doesn't know how to substitute, right? Those shouldn't be your conversations, right? You should, if you want to build teamwork in your kids, recognize the times when they really demonstrate great teamwork, right? So whatever's important to you, right? Those should guide your conversation. And maybe you should share the list on the way home, right? And see what their goals are, because sometimes they're a little bit different than what we think, right? So those are the conversation starters that you want. But the bottom line, you got to know your child. You got to know what your goals are. And you got to know what the program is all about, right? And hopefully all of those things fit and we can move forward in a positive way. In a collaboration, that's what it's all about, right? Everybody in the room is working together along with administration to try to make this the best experience possible for everybody, right? You've got to have a good parent-program collaboration, right? Everybody's got to work together. This is how it happens. So, sir, in the back, you mentioned to compete, right? These are the two things that the coach is really doing, right? The coach is preparing the girls to compete. That's the most obvious thing you do in sports, right? You go out and compete. But also teaching some character along the way. And that's the more important of those two things, right? So compete and build character. Now, I'm going to ask the ladies this one. What are some things that coach does to get you ready to compete? Pre-game warm-ups, practice. What do you practice? Plays. What else? Defense, skills, fundamentals. How about, how many girls are on each team? 15 maybe? How many start? So coach has got to make a lineup. Sometimes everybody else, the other players play a little bit, so he's got to substitute, right? All of those things are that first goal category, right? Those come under competition. That's the coach's job, right? Those aren't really subject for discussion, right? Maybe you can have a discussion, but, we don't really have much input in that as parents. And like I said, I've been on both sides of that with my kids. So now we'll ask some parents, right? He's going to build some character. What are some character traits that you want them to have when they're done playing basketball here at Burbank? What do you want them to have learned that's going to help them when they're done?
Different mindset.
Different mindset? A little deeper on that.
More growing up, more mature.
Okay, growing up and maturing. Okay, good.
How to show up.
Got to be there, right? Show up on time, be ready to go, give your best. Your best ability might be your availability, right? Be there. What else? Perseverance, teamwork, team player. What's that? Integrity, right? Sportsmanship a little bit. Okay? Yep. So all of those things, right? Sportsmanship, commitment, work ethic, all of those things are character traits they're going to build just by playing sports. Okay? But these things don't get taught unless you support the situation, right? If coach is trying to teach work ethic and commitment, and somebody's not so committed and they're not available and they're not showing up, and he decides not to play him as much, and as parents, we badmouth that decision on the drive home or around the dinner table, that lesson gets lost. It gets undermined. Kids don't learn the lesson unless we support it, right? If we're trying to teach integrity and sportsmanship, and as a team, and moms and dads are going nuts in the stands, that doesn't get taught. Or accountability, right? He's going to hold players accountable for their performance. And on the way back to the car, we're making excuses for other players making mistakes or referee calls, right? Those excuses take away the accountability that we're trying to teach to the kids, right? So these lessons don't get taught. Now let me ask you, if you had a team full of people with these qualities, would you be pretty good? Right? You'd have a pretty good team if you had all of these qualities, even if that stuff wasn't as evident, right? So these are more important, okay? And they only happen with the parent support. So it's got to be that collaboration, right? Because sometimes they conflict, right? Sometimes, coach is going to have to sit somebody that isn't demonstrating something here. That's a tough time. It's going to be a tough conversation with the player, with the parent, maybe administration, whatever, right? But we got to run to those moments because they're teachable moments, right? And that's what we want. Those are the times when kids grow up, right? So when there's a tough moment, work together on it, collaborate on it, right? Because when you have that gold standard collaboration, right, when it's as good as it possibly can be, that's when kids get the most out of it. And if you have these things and support them, it's going to help you win more or play better, right? And the more you win, the higher the stakes, the more lessons kids learn, and it just continues to go back and forth, right? Two different ways you can look at this thing. Do results define you? Right? Is it all about the score? Is it all about stats? You know what stats and standings are? They're comparisons with somebody else. Right? And I think it was Teddy Roosevelt said, comparison is the thief of joy. Right? As soon as you start comparing yourself with others, somebody else is going to have better stats, nicer car, more money, bigger house. Right? Stop them comparing. Just be as good as you can be. Right? Your personal best. Are you improving? And get over mistakes. Right? Be able to manage mistakes a little bit, because then you worry less. So only control what's controllable. Don't worry about the other stuff. I use the acronym WIN. What's important now? That's the only thing that matters, right? What's important right at this moment. Okay? It's kind of a big trend, this whole growth mindset thing. Who's read the book Mindset by Carol Dweck? Anybody? Great book for parents, coaches. Basically, she says there's two different kinds of mindsets. Either you think you're good and you're talented, or you think you can get better with hard work. Okay? People that think that they're good and talented have probably been told that they're good all their life. And then what happens sometimes is they start playing against other people that are good. And they start to think, well, I achieved because I was good. Everybody told me so. Now I'm struggling, so I must not be that good. Right? And they level off right there. But if you tell people that they're achieving because of their hard work, right? Then when they struggle, all they know is, I got here because I worked hard. Now I'm struggling a little bit. What do I need to do? Just work a little bit harder, right? This research happened in the last 15, 20 years and changed the way I parented. Right? Because every sentence I just added, and that's because you did your homework, right? Or that's because you've been practicing more, right? So start to recognize their work a little bit, and that develops a mindset that's a growth mindset instead of a fixed mindset. Maybe you can't do it, but it's just you can't do it yet, right? Maybe you can't make a left-handed layup yet, right? Maybe you don't understand your math yet. I got to have a calculus conversation tonight with my son. Yeah, that's struggling today. So you're going to get better at it, okay, if you continue to work. That's what's most important. What we want to do is we want to fill each other's emotional bank, okay? When I feel drained because of all the setbacks and failures and negative comments and criticisms and corrections, I lose confidence. Right? I'm not very coachable. I don't want to listen. It's hard to compete. Right? So we want to give them as much praise as possible when it's appropriate so that they're tough and they're coachable and they continue to work hard and get better and gritty and get over mistakes and are able to react to tough situations with character. Right? And a lot of times when our emotional bank is empty, that's when you see those on-court explosions where things don't turn out well, or in the stands as well, right? So we want to try to do that. All sorts of research in a lot of different ways go into this, but what we want, what they've proven, is we need to create 5 times as many positive memories as criticisms and corrections, setbacks and failures. Okay, so think about that. 5 times as many positive memories. Now, some days are going to go bad. There's going to be a lot of setbacks and failures and corrections. There's nothing we as parents can do about that, so we got to make up for it. Right? That's not the time to pile on and make more corrections and give more criticism. That's the time to try to create some other memories that might be positive, right? Because we want to get to that overall 5-to-1 ratio, not just every day, but over the course of time, right? At the end of the season, the end of the week, whatever, right? But it's everybody involved, right? It's not just coach, it's not just parents, it's not just administration. Everybody in the group pitches into that 5-to-1 ratio. So things might happen bad on the court. Coach might be really on you today and making a lot of corrections. But if we all pitch in, we can overcome that, right? Ladies, you outnumber coaches. So this ratio should never go below 5-1, right? On tough days, when things are going bad, and there's a lot of corrections and criticisms or failures, that's when, as it's been said a couple of times, you need to have each other's back, right? You need to pick them up a little bit and appreciate each other, right? Praise each other, encourage each other. Parents relentlessly reward desired effort, right? When they're trying to do what you want them to do, when they're trying to do what coach wants them to do, don't miss an opportunity, okay? So that acronym, right? Appreciate their ability, praise their performance, encourage them after errors, right? Go ape for your teammates. Pick a player each day. Players, pair up, right? Whoever's your shooting partner, right? That's the person I'm going to encourage that day. Right? Try to give them as many positives as possible, okay? Help them get over mistakes, right? Flush mistakes. That last play is over with. Don't worry about it. Move on to the next one. Parents, we got to remember the big picture, right? What this is all about, right? They're just becoming young ladies. They're competing, learning to compete, learning life lessons, having fun. The outcome of an individual game is not that crucial. I had what I called the driveway rule. And what I mean by that is whenever we would pull out of the driveway of whatever venue we played at or practiced, I wouldn't bring up the topic again unless they did. When you ask college athletes what was the worst part of their high school experience and youth sports experience, they say the car ride home with mom and dad. Honest, right? So when we pulled out of the driveway, we wouldn't talk about it at all, right? Now, sometimes I would sit in the parking lot a little bit longer before we pulled out, right? But they always knew it was safe, and they almost always brought it up, and we could talk about it, right? Like a court of law, once they open the door, you can cross-examine, right? But if they don't want to talk about it, leave it alone. They're not listening anyway, right? This flow has to work together, right? School administration sets the culture for coach. He passes it down to the players. Parents are the foundation and have to work to make sure that all happens a little bit. And when it comes game time, you got to support that, right? Because sometimes things aren't going to go well, right? Sometimes the referee is going to look over at me and say, Ray, there was nothing there. There's no foul. That was in the paper the next day, right? I made sure I had it on my clipboard next time we had that official. Okay? There's nothing there. So I could either rant and rave and go crazy, or I could worry about the next play, right? And teach and coach, and that's what we tried to do. So make sure that we honor the game and be respectful. Ladies, raise your hand if you're a leader. Okay? All right, put your hands down. Raise your hand if you're a follower. Okay? So people look at that as a bad thing, right? Nobody wants to raise their hand when I ask who's a follower. But you can't be a good leader unless you're a good follower. Captains on the team, leaders on the team, can't be good leaders unless you're following Coach Del Mundo's directions. He can't be a good coach unless he's following the administration's directions. Can't be a good daughter unless you're following your parents' guidelines and rules, right? So we want to make sure that we're leaders and followers, just doing it the right way. And then once that happens, we need to have that chain of command and support, right? Parents, once that's all passed down, you need to go back and cooperate with the school so that make sure everything is working appropriately, right? Question for the team. Crunch time. Last couple minutes. Scores tied. How are you going to play? What are you going to do?
I'm going to give my everything.
You're going to give everything. You're going to focus more. Should you be able to get... Here's what I want you to do. Ladies, stand up. Actually, parents, stand up too. Get you moving before Coach Del Mundo takes over. Okay, now here's what I want you to do. I want you to raise your hands as high as you can. Okay, everybody. Right? Okay, now I want you to do is I want you to raise them just a little bit higher. Okay, sit back down. Go ahead and sit down. Raise your hand if you were able to raise your hands a little higher. Yeah, you shouldn't have been able to. Right? What was my instruction? Raise them as high as you can. Right? So, at crunch time, you shouldn't be able to play harder. You shouldn't be able to play with more focus. If you were doing that from the opening tip, it wouldn't be crunch time right now. Right? So your best effort, right, from the opening tip all the time, then you don't have to worry about it. Right? Every possession is the same. Said I coached for a long time. I was at Pomona-Pitzer College for 9 years in the middle of a couple of stints at Bishop Amat. And I came in when Greg Popovich, the coach of the Spurs, left. So all the players that we had were players that he had recruited. So he came back to visit one day and he talked to them before a game. And he said, "You're not playing a game tonight." And ladies, this is important, right? You're not playing a game. You're playing 100 games, right? 50 on offense and 50 on defense. And just like you can't worry about the last game when you're playing today's game, you can't worry about the last play when you're competing on this play. So you need to play possession by possession. Every possession is a little mini game, right? And if you give your best effort with your best focus, you've won that possession. And if you do that a bunch of times in a row, maybe you go on a little bit of a run. And whichever team wins the most possessions is going to feel the best at the end of the night, right? You're going to feel okay about it. But it's not about the score, right? It's about that best effort and about improvement and getting a little bit better, right? I know caring is one of Coach's things, right? In a class a million years ago, I wrote a paper that said, conclusion was something about a coach has got to care about his players on and off the floor, prove that he's knowledgeable, and work as hard as he expects them to, right? And then we learn all this stuff, right? We get playbooks, and we get, all kinds of stuff. And Coach remembers, I would give him a 3-ring binder that was about this thick, and I said, "That's our philosophy, coach it up." And we were having a tough time in the middle of a really good season, and I went on a little rant and told kids they were playing like they didn't care, and if they would just try, and they're making the same mistake over and over again, you're not even thinking out there. And practice was over, and I went in the office, slumped in the chair, and realized that's what I had talked about 25 years earlier, and I forgot about it all, right? I started thinking that offense and plays and all of that stuff were more important, when really it came down to, do you really care, right, about what you're doing and how it affects everybody else? Are you giving your best effort, right? Are you thinking about what you're supposed to be doing? And let's hope you're having fun along the way. Right? So those are the things that we really want out of it. I enjoy, right, sharing the process with everybody. I try to be as available and accessible to everybody. So I'm going to leave my information up at the end if for whatever reason you need to get a hold of me all sorts of different ways. But I know that you guys are in good hands, right? When I thought about creating gold standard coaching, right? The word gold standard is just the greatest monetary system ever, right? Trying to do it as well as it possibly can be done. And I know that when I took over at Bishop Amat and Coach Del Mundo was one of the very first people I called, it was because he tries to do things as well as it possibly can be done, right? Sometimes that's possible, and sometimes there are restrictions that hinder that, but I know that you guys are all going to make the effort to try to do it as well as you possibly can, right? And that's going to make a successful season, not wins and losses, right? Thank you, and